Ahar, matey! Aye. Hoist the sail! Huzzah!
Ahoy there, ye bold seekers of the strange and unexplained. Welcome aboard the Bloody Gull, the finest vessel to ever sail the shadowed waters of the unknown. I'm Captain Jebediah Blackwater, pirate, wanderer, and your guide through the murky depths where legend and truth collide.
Hoist the Jolly Roger! Batten down the hatches!
Each week we set our course for the uncharted seas of mystery, where ghost ships drift, ancient curses linger, and secrets older than the ocean itself await discovery. From tales of the deep to whispers of forgotten worlds, there's no riddle too dark or storm too fierce for this crew.
Hooray! Shiver me timber! Full ahead!
So tighten your lines, ready your hearts, and keep your wits sharp, 'cause the sea's got its secrets, and she won't give 'em up without a fight. Now, let's weigh anchor and dive into the unknown. Ahoy, crew, gather round and lend an ear. I have a tale to tell that'll chill your bones and make the salt in your veins tingle. It's a story from my younger days when I was but a reckless sailor with more ambition than sense. This was the day I came face to face with the beast of legend itself, the Kraken.
It was a stormy night on the unforgiving seas, the kind where the stars hide behind thick clouds and the waves seem alive, rising like mountains only to crash down with the fury of giants. Captain Jeb, a mere first mate at the time, was aboard the Sea Serpent, a sturdy brigantine carrying a fortune in cargo and an unlucky crew.
We'd been warned, of course. Old sailors in the port taverns had whispered of strange disappearances near those waters. "Stay clear of the devil's depths," they muttered, their eyes wide with fear. But our captain, foolhardy and drunk on dreams of riches, laughed it off. "Sea monsters are for bedtime stories," he said. Oh, how wrong he was.
As the Sea Serpent battled the storm, the crew noticed an eerie stillness beneath the chaos. The waves calmed, but not in a comforting way. The water turned glassy, dark as ink, and the ship seemed to drift into an unnatural silence.
It was then when I saw it. At first, just a ripple, then a shadow, a shape so enormous it made our ship look like a child's toy. And then the tentacles.
Rising from the depths, the Kraken revealed itself. Massive tentacles, slick with seawater, glistened in the faint light of the lanterns. They reached skyward before slamming down with a force that made the entire ship lurch.
The beast was a monster out of nightmares. Eyes the size of barrels glowing faintly green, and a beak sharp enough to split timber. It wrapped one massive tentacle around the bow of the ship, dragging us toward its gaping maw.
Chaos erupted as the crew scrambled to fight back. Harpoons flew through the air, axes struck at the writhing limbs, and prayers were shouted to any god that would listen.
Now I'll admit I was scared out of my wits, but fear can make a man do strange things. I grabbed a lantern, one of those oil-filled ones we use to light the deck, and an idea struck me.
With the ship tilting precariously, Jeb climbed the main mast, lantern in hand. Below, the Kraken's tentacles tightened their grip, splintering wood and pulling the ship closer to its doom.
I swung out over the beast, dangling from the rigging like a madman. If we're going down, I thought, I'm taking this beast with us. I hurled that lantern with all my strength, aiming for one of its glowing eyes.
The lantern smashed against the Kraken's face, igniting the oil in a fiery explosion. The creature let out an unholy roar, a sound so loud and deep it rattled the very bones of the ship.
That fire blinded the beast just long enough for us to make our escape. The captain ordered the crew to cut the lines and dump the cargo, lightening the ship. With the sails full of wind, we broke free from its grasp and fled into the storm.
By dawn, the sea serpent was miles from the Kraken's lair, battered but still afloat. The crew was silent, too shaken to speak. And though they had escaped with their lives, the memory of that monstrous eye, blazing with fury and pain, would haunt them forever.
Now, some might say it was luck. Others might call it bravery. Me? I think the Kraken let us go. Not out of mercy, mind ye, but because it had bigger fish to fry. So if you're ever out on the open sea and the waters grow too still, remember my tale and steer clear of the devil's depths. You might not be as lucky as we were.
And so Captain Jeb's tale of the Kraken remains a reminder of the ocean's mysteries, its terrors, and its wonders.
Now, who's up for a round of rum? After all, a good story deserves a proper toast. Cheers, mates! Ahoy there, my fellow explorers of the deep and the strange. You found yourself tuned into Seas of Mystery, the late-night broadcast where the unknown rises like the tide, and we set sail into uncharted waters of legend and lore. I'm your host, Captain Jeb, coming to you live from my trusty vessel, the Bloody Gull. Here on these salty airwaves, we dig into the mysteries that haunt the waves and echo through time. Tonight we've got a truly titanic topic on deck. Two of the most infamous sea monsters ever to terrorize the imagination of mankind. The Kraken and the Leviathan. Picture it if you dare. Tentacles the size of ship masts, pulling galleons to their doom. Or a serpentine beast so massive it could coil around an island, shaking the very foundation of the earth. My friends, these creatures aren't just bedtime stories. They're the embodiment of humankind's fear of the deep, dark unknown. The Kraken, the name that echoes from the icy fjords of Norse legend. To the seafarers of Scandinavia, this was no mere myth. The Kraken was a menace, lying in wait beneath the surface, ready to devour any ship that dared to pass over its domain. But was it just a tale told by sailors to pass the time, or a misunderstood account of a real flesh and blood beast? Giant squids? Colossal squids? Even something bigger? Who's to say what might lurk in the unexplored depths of the ocean? And then there's the Leviathan. This creature takes us into the realm of the spiritual and the apocalyptic. It appears in the Bible, described as a monstrous sea serpent created by God himself. The book of Job paints it as a creature of unmatched power, a terror of the seas. Was the Leviathan merely a metaphor, a symbol of chaos? Or did our ancestors see something so incredible, so massive, that they could only explain it through divine intervention? Tonight, we're pulling up anchor and navigating through history, legend, and even science to get to the bottom of these two titans of the sea. We'll be piecing together eyewitness accounts, ancient texts, and modern research to ask the big questions. Could creatures like the Kraken and the Leviathan still be alive today? Have they simply retreated to the deep, far from the prying eyes of humanity? Or are they waiting for the right moment to resurface? And don't worry, I'm not tackling this mystery alone. Later, we'll hear from marine biologist Dr. Carla Rhodes, who will give us the scientific lowdown on what might be behind these legends. We'll also have a few brave souls calling in to share their encounters with the unknown. And let me tell you, some of these stories will chill you to your core. But before we dive too deep, let's take a moment to appreciate why these stories still captivate us. The ocean has always been a place of mystery, hasn't it? Even today, in the age of satellites and submarines, over 80% of the world's oceans remain unexplored. Think about that. It's an expanse so vast, so deep, that it defies comprehension. It's no wonder our ancestors filled those waters with monsters. And who could blame them? Imagine being a sailor in the 13th century. No GPS, no weather radar, just the stars above and the endless waves below. You hear strange noises, groans from the deep, perhaps the shifting of the tectonic plates or the song of a whale you've never encountered. You see shapes in the water. Was it a pod of dolphins or the shadow of something far larger, lurking just below the surface? It's easy to see how fear and imagination could weave these tales of terror. But fear alone doesn't explain the persistence of these stories, does it? No, my friends, there's something deeper at work. These myths have endured for centuries because they resonate with something primal in us. They remind us that no matter how advanced we become, the ocean is still a place where we are small, vulnerable, and most of all, curious. And let's not forget, the Kraken and Leviathan aren't just relics of the past. They've made their way into modern culture too. From Hollywood blockbusters to cryptid lore, these creatures still hold sway over our imaginations. But why? Is it because they represent a challenge? A force we can't conquer? Or is it because deep down we know there are still mysteries out there waiting to be uncovered? Tonight we'll be navigating the waters of legend and reality. We'll examine old maps that mark the edges of the world with the words, "Here be monsters." We'll hear from people who swear they've encountered creatures that defy explanation. And as always, we'll leave the final verdict up to you, our loyal crew of listeners. So batten down the hatches, my friends. Pour yourself a cup of grog, or maybe just some strong coffee, and settle in. The tide is rising and the winds be shifting. It's time to set sail into the unknown. But before we hoist the anchor and dive into the first tale of the night, let's take a moment to open the lines. I want to hear from our listeners. Have ye ever encountered something strange at sea? Or maybe ye heard a story passed down through your family about an encounter with a Kraken or Leviathan. Call in and let's talk about it. While we wait for those lines to light up, let's start with a letter from Linda in Port Angeles. She's got a story about her grandfather's close encounter with a Kraken, or at least that's what he thought it was. But first, a quick word from our sponsors.
Are you ready to hoist the sails on your next adventure? Come to Captain Morgan's Marina, where every voyage begins. From fishing boats to luxury yachts, we've got the gear to set you free on the seas. Captain Morgan's, your gateway to the blue.
Have you ever wondered what's lurking in the depths of your DNA? Find out with Maritime Mysteries Ancestry Kits. Discover your oceanic roots and uncover the sailor or pirate in your bloodline. Order now and get 20% off with the code MYSTERY. the Kraken. A name that sends shivers down the spine of even the bravest sailor. A beast whispered about in the icy fjords of Scandinavia, capable of dragging entire ships to their watery graves. Sailors spun tales of tentacles as thick as oak trees, wrapping around their vessels and pulling them under, leaving nothing but splintered wood and terrified screams. And then there's the Leviathan. The Leviathan. A creature born of biblical lore, described as a great serpentine beast capable of defying the heavens themselves. Unlike the Kraken, the Leviathan wasn't just a monster. It was a symbol of chaos, of divine wrath, of the untamable power of nature itself. Tonight, me friends, we're diving into the origins of these stories. We'll sift through historical accounts, piece together ancient folklore, and ask the million-dollar question. Could these monsters still exist in some form today? Or are they nothing more than cautionary tales for those who dare to challenge the sea's might? But before we get too deep, let's hear from one of ye, our loyal listeners. I've got a letter here sent by, well, I'd like to say it was delivered by Carrier Gull, but let's be real, it came via email. Close enough, eh? This one comes from Linda in Port Angeles. She writes, Captain Jeb, my great-grandfather was a sailor back in the 1920s, and he always swore he saw a kraken while working on a fishing boat off the coast of Greenland. Now, Linda, you've already got me hooked. The 1920s, a time when the world was still filled with unexplored corners, and stories like this could shake a man's resolve. The icy waters off Greenland, that's prime territory for mysterious sightings. Those depths are cold, dark, and largely uncharted, even today. He said it rose from the depths, massive tentacles coiling around their nets. The captain ordered the crew to cut the lines, and the beast sank back into the water. Cut the lines? That captain wasn't taking any chances. You know, there's an old sailor's superstition. When the sea gives ye a warning, ye don't ignore it. And seeing something like that, I'd wager those men never slept soundly on a ship again. My great-grandfather never fished again. Could this have been real, or was it just a tall tale? Linda, I'll tell ye what. I don't think your great-grandfather would have given up the life of a fisherman over a simple tall tale. Whatever he saw that day shook him to his core. Was it a kraken? Maybe a giant squid, a colossal squid, or something else entirely? We'll dive deeper into the science of these creatures later in the show, but let me say this. There are things in the ocean we still don't understand, and your great-grandfather's story might just be a piece of that puzzle. Now, let's turn to the phones. It looks like we've got Steve from Nova Scotia on the line. Steve, you're live on Seas of Mystery. What's your story?
Oh, hi there, Captain. I love the show. It's the highlight of my late-night fishing trips. I've been a lobster fisherman for over 30 years, and let me tell you, the ocean is a strange place.
Thank you, Steve. 30 years at sea. You must have seen it all by now, or at least enough to know the ocean holds more mysteries than answers. What's the strangest thing you've encountered?
Well, Captain, it happened about 5 years ago. I was out late under a sky so clear you could see every star. The water was calm, so calm it almost felt wrong, you know. I was hauling up traps when suddenly something massive moved under my boat.
Massive, ye say? How big are we talking about here, Steve?
Big enough that it left me speechless. This wasn't a whale. I've seen plenty of those in my time. No, this thing was at least 100 feet long, maybe more. It moved fast, so fast, that it caused a current that rocked my boat. And here's the thing. I never saw the whole of it, just a shadow in the water. But the size of that shadow, it was enough to make me question everything I thought I knew about the sea.
A shadow 100 feet long? Steve, that's the kind of story that keeps sailors awake at night. Did it make any noise? A roar, a groan, anything like that?
Oh, no sound that I could hear, but the way it moved, it was almost unnatural. Like it was gliding through the water without effort. Do you think that could have been a Leviathan?
Steve, that's one whale of a sighting. Pun fully intended. A creature that massive, moving that quickly, doesn't fit neatly into the categories of what we know. Could it have been a Leviathan? Perhaps. Or maybe a colossal squid. Or even an unknown species. Later tonight we'll hear from marine biologist Dr. Carlo Rhodes, who'll shed some light on the science behind these legends. But let me tell you this, Steve. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that the ocean is far from done surprising us. Thanks for calling in, Steve. Your story adds another layer to the mystery. I'd love to hear from more of ye out there. Have ye seen something in the water that defies explanation? Give us a call or send us a letter. For now, let's take a musical break. Here's a little shanty to set the mood. It's Captain Jeb's Drunken Crew. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back to dive even deeper into the legends of the Kraken and the Leviathan.
What shall we do with Captain Jeb's crew? Shall we do with Captain Jeb's crew? What shall we do with Captain Jeb's crew? The rum runs dry in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. Send him to swab the ghostly galleon. Send him to swab the ghostly galleon. Send him to swab the ghostly galley till the spirits stop their mourning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. Time to the mast when the Kraken's thrashing. Time to the mast when the Kraken's thrashing. Time to the mast when the Kraken's thrashing. And hope they don't go swimming. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. Feed him to the gulls if they steal my treasure. Feed him to the gulls if they steal my treasure. Feed him to the gulls if they steal my treasure. And I'll be laughing, roaring. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. But if they fight, I'll share me plunder. If they fight, I'll share me plunder. If they fight, I'll share me plunder with grog and gold adorning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. So raise your cups to Captain Jeb's crew. Raise your cups to Captain Jeb's crew. Raise your cups to Captain Jeb's crew and sing this song till morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning.
Welcome back, my fearless explorers of the unknown. You're tuned in to Seas of Mystery, and tonight we're plunging into the murky waters of the Kraken and the Leviathan, two of the most fearsome creatures ever to rise from the depths of legend and lore. But what's behind these tales? Are they ancient warnings, exaggerations of real encounters, or perhaps echoes of something still swimming beneath the waves today? To help us unravel this mystery, we've got marine biologist and cryptid enthusiast Dr. Carlo Rhodes joining us shortly. But first, I want to set the stage with a little more history and hear from ye, our listeners, because these creatures aren't just ancient myths. Their stories ripple through time and maybe, just maybe, into our own experiences. Let's start with the Kraken. It's a name that conjures up images of massive tentacles, sinking ships, and sailors clinging to splinters of their dreams. First mentioned in Norse sagas, this beast was said to lurk in the icy waters off Norway and Greenland, where it would rise up to snatch ships from the surface. But where did these stories come from? And could they have a basis in reality? We've got a caller on the line, Jacob from Seattle. Jacob, you're live on Seas of Mystery. What's your take on the Kraken?
Hi, Captain Jeb. Thanks for having me on. So I've always been fascinated by the Kraken. I mean, our hockey team here in Seattle is the Seattle Kraken. I read somewhere that these legends might have started with sightings of giant squids, but the thing is, even giant squids don't get that big, right? I mean, the Kraken was supposed to be the size of an island. Is there any evidence to suggest such a creature could exist, or did these sailors just have too much rum?
Jacob, that's a great question. Giant squids are definitely part of the discussion, and we'll dive into the science of that with Dr. Rhodes in just a moment. But you're right. The Kraken wasn't just a big squid in these stories. It was said to be so massive, it could create whirlpools when it's submerged. Sailors even believed it could devour entire schools of fish in one gulp, leaving the seas barren. Could that be an exaggeration? Maybe. Or maybe, just maybe, there's more to it. Let's bring another voice into the mix. I've got Mary from Charleston on the line. Mary, what's your Kraken story?
Oh, hi, Captain Jeb. Thanks for taking my call. So my grandmother used to tell me this old family story. Her great-great-grandfather was a sailor in the 1800s, and he claimed he saw a sea devil in the Atlantic. He described it as having enormous glowing eyes and tentacles that reached out of the water like tree trunks. His shipmates all swore they saw it too, but when they got back to port and told the story, no one believed him. Do you think this could have been a Kraken, or was it just an overactive imagination?
Mary, I love hearing stories passed down through families like that. The glowing eyes detail is fascinating. There are old sailors' tales about bioluminescent creatures in the deep, which might have added to the fear factor. But let's hold that thought. Now on to the Leviathan. This creature is a bit different. It's rooted in biblical and Middle Eastern mythology, often depicted as a giant sea serpent or dragon. It was said to symbolize chaos, a force of destruction so great that only a divine power could tame it. Imagine being a sailor in the ancient world, navigating uncharted waters, and suddenly spotting something massive and serpentine slithering through the waves. It's no wonder these legends took hold. I see we've got another caller, Sam from Boston. Sam, you're on the air. What's your take on the Leviathan?
Hey there, Captain Jeb. Love the show. So I grew up reading a lot of old text, and I always found it interesting that the Leviathan wasn't just a sea monster. In some stories, it was a divine punishment, a representation of chaos itself. Do you think these stories were just allegories, or is there a chance they're based on real sightings of something massive?
Sam, you bring up an excellent point. The Leviathan is steeped in symbolism, but could it also be rooted in reality? After all, ancient cultures didn't just make things up out of thin air. There are countless stories of sea serpents from all over the world. Could they all be describing the same creature? Let's turn to our expert for some answers.
Lost your ship to the Kraken? Sunk your stoop on cursed waters? Then call Kraken's Cove Insurance, protecting pirates and privateers from the unholy dangers of the deep. Whether it's ghost ships, rogue waves, or sea monsters, we've got you covered. Sign up today and get a free cursed compass, guaranteed to lead ye somewhere eventually.
And now, me friends, let's bring in Dr. Carlo Rhodes. She's a marine biologist with a passion for exploring the mysteries of the deep and the legends that come with them. Dr. Rhodes, welcome to Seas of Mystery.
Why, thanks for having me, Captain Jeb. It's always a thrill to dive into these topics.
So, Dr. Rhodes, we've heard some great questions and stories from our listeners. Let's start with the Kraken. Jacob from Seattle asked if the legend could have been inspired by giant squids. What's your take?
Jacob is absolutely onto something. Giant squids, architoothless ducks, can grow up to 40 feet long. And colossal squids, their larger cousins, can reach similar lengths. They're elusive creatures living in the deep ocean where humans rarely venture. It's entirely possible that early sailors encountering these massive squids in rare moments exaggerated their size and abilities. But here's the thing. Some historical descriptions of the Kraken talk about creatures far larger than any squid we know of. Could there have been an even larger species that's now extinct? It's not out of the question.
Fascinating. And what about Mary's story of the sea devil with glowing eyes? Could that be a giant squid or something else entirely?
The glowing eyes could be a case of bioluminescence. Many deep-sea creatures, including squids, use bioluminescence to lure prey or communicate. It's also worth noting that sailors in the 1800s didn't have the scientific knowledge we do today. So seeing something like that in the dark, open ocean would have seemed otherworldly.
Now let's talk Leviathan. Sam from Boston mentioned its symbolic meaning as chaos, but is there any historical or scientific basis for a creature like that?
The Leviathan is fascinating because it bridges mythology and natural history. Many ancient cultures describe sea serpents or dragons, and some of these accounts may have been inspired by real creatures, like oarfish, which can grow up to 36 feet long. But the Leviathan's deeper meaning as a force of chaos likely reflects humanity's fear of the unknown, especially when it comes to the sea. It's a place of mystery, danger, and awe, and the Leviathan embodies all of that.
Dr. Rhodes, you've given us a lot to think about. Could these creatures or their modern counterparts still be out there?
The ocean is vast, Captain Jeb. We've only explored about 20% of it, which means there's so much we don't know. Could there be a creature out there that inspired these legends? Absolutely. Whether it's a surviving species we've yet to discover or something entirely new, the possibilities are endless.
Thank you, Dr. Rhodes. Stick around, folks. After this break, we'll dive into modern sightings and scientific theories. Here's another sea shanty to keep ye in the mood. This one's called The Kraken's Lament. Don't go anywhere.
The night was dark, the stars were few, the waves like hills, the wind it blew. From the depths below, a shadow grew, the Kraken rose, its vengeance due. Its eyes like fire, its maw a cave, its tentacles reach for the bold and brave. The stormbreaker swayed, the timbers groaned, in the Kraken's grip our fate was sown. Sing high, sing low, in the black abyss, the Kraken roared its deathly hiss. But we stood strong against the beast's torment, and lived to sing the Kraken's lament. With a mighty thrash, the waves they rose, the thunder crashed. With every strike, our hopes grew thin, yet the fight was won, we vowed to win. Hold fast, my lads, I cried with fire. Strike true, let's light this beast's pyre. With cannons roared and harpoons thrown, we fought like devils to save our own. Sing high, sing low, in the black abyss, the Kraken roared its deathly hiss. But we stood strong against the beast's torment, and lived to sing the Kraken's lament. beast let loose a cry so deep, it stirred the souls of the ocean's keep. Its tentacles writhed, its eye burned bright, a battle born of fury and fright. But in the storm we found our will, with iron and fire we aimed to kill. The Kraken sank, the water stilled, its legend remains, but its hunger's filled. Sing high, sing low, in the black abyss, the Kraken roared its deathly hiss. But we stood strong against the beast's torment, and lived to sing the Kraken's lament. Sailors tell of that cursed at night, when men and beasts waged their frightful fight. The Stormbreaker's sails, though battered and torn, its crew alive, though weary and worn. So raise your cups to the ocean's might, to the men who fought in the pale moonlight. For the Kraken sleeps in the depths below, and we'll sing its lament wherever we go. Sing high, sing low, in the black abyss, the Kraken roared its deathly hiss. But we stood strong against the beast's torment, and lived to sing the Kraken's lament. Is wild, her secrets deep, where monsters rise and sailors weep. But fear not, mates, when the storm is spent, we'll raise our voices in the Kraken's lament.
Welcome back to Seas of Mystery, my brave crew. Tonight we're navigating the shadowy waters of the Kraken and the Leviathan. We've taken a deep dive into the myths, history, and cultural lore of these terrifying sea monsters. Now it's time to surface and take a hard look at modern sightings and scientific theories. Could these legendary beasts or their real-world counterparts still roam the deep? And what does science have to say about the creatures that haunt our oceans? But before we hear from Dr. Rhodes again, let's start with some listener calls. We've got Gary from New Orleans on the line. Gary here live on Seas of Mystery.
Hi there, Captain Jeb. Big fan of your show. So this happened about 2 years ago when I was out deep sea fishing with my brother in the Gulf of Mexico. It was just before dawn and water was eerily calm. All of a sudden, this massive shadow passed under our boat. I'm talking massive. We thought it was a whale at first, but it moved too quickly and had this strange undulating motion, almost like a snake or an eel. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Gary, thanks for sharing that spine-tingling account. An undulating motion, ye say? That doesn't sound like a whale to me. Whales have a smoother, more rhythmic movement, and their size would make them easy to identify. What you're describing sounds more serpentine, very Leviathan-like if you ask me. Let's hold on to that thought. Next, we've got Olivia from Halifax. Olivia, you're on the air.
Hi, Captain Jeb, so I wanted to share something my uncle told me. He's a marine biologist, and he once spotted a creature while on a research vessel in the Pacific. He said it looked like a giant squid, but it was bigger than anything officially documented. Its tentacles were easily over 60 feet long, and it had this strange translucent glow. He said it was unlike anything he'd ever seen, and that the whole crew was shaken up. Could something like that be an undiscovered species?
Olivia, your uncle's story gives me goosebumps. A glowing, oversized squid. That sounds like it came straight out of a Jules Verne novel. But here's the thing. Science is constantly discovering new species in the deep ocean, many of them stranger than we could ever imagine. Let's bring in Dr. Rhodes to unpack these fascinating accounts. Dr. Rhodes, we've just heard 2 modern sightings that seem to defy explanation. What's your take on Gary's shadowy serpent and Olivia's glowing squid?
Thanks, Captain Jeb. Both of these stories are fantastic examples of how much we still don't know about the ocean. Let's start with Gary's sighting. A massive, fast-moving shadow with a serpentine motion could potentially be an oarfish. Oarfish are known as sea serpents because of their elongated, snake-like bodies, and they can grow up to 36 feet long. But they're slow swimmers. So if Gary saw something moving quickly, it might suggest an entirely different creature, perhaps an unknown species of giant eel or even a prehistoric holdover like a mosasaur, though the latter is highly speculative. As for Olivia's glowing squid, that's particularly interesting. There are species of deep-sea squid with bioluminescent features, and some of them can get quite large. However, if her uncle described a squid with tentacles over 60 feet long, that's well beyond what we currently have documented. It's possible that he encountered a yet-to-be-discovered species, or perhaps even a colossal squid displaying some kind of previously unseen trait.
It's incredible how much mystery still lurks in the deep. Dr. Rhodes, I've got to ask. Do you think it's possible there are creatures out there that could explain the Kraken or Leviathan myths?
Absolutely, Captain. While the creatures described in the myths are likely exaggerated, they could have been inspired by real animals that seemed monstrous to early sailors. For example, the Kraken could have been based on encounters with giant or colossal squids, amplified by fear and imagination. And the Leviathan? It might have roots in sightings of massive sea snakes or fish or even ancient crocodilian species that are now extinct. That said, the ocean is vast. Over 70% of our planet is covered in water, and we've explored less than 20% of it. Every year, researchers discover new species in the deep sea, from bizarre fish to jellyfish that look like living fireworks. It's not out of the question that there are still giant, elusive creatures hiding in the unexplored depths.
You know, I've always felt the sea holds more secrets than we could ever imagine. I've been sailing for decades, and I've seen things I can't explain. Lights beneath the waves, massive shadows in the distance, and once, what I swear was the tip of a tentacle breaking the surface. Some people say it's just imagination, but I think there's something primal about the ocean. It's a place that forces you to confront the unknown, and sometimes that unknown stares back. Could there be creatures out there that match the description of the Kraken or Leviathan? I say yes. Maybe not exactly as they're described in the stories, but something is out there. Something big, ancient, and mysterious.
I couldn't agree more, Captain. The ocean is our last great frontier, and until we've explored more of it, the possibility of undiscovered giants remains very real.
Well said, Dr. Rhodes. If you're just tuning in, we've been diving deep into the mysteries of the Kraken and Leviathan, past, present, and possible future. After the break, we'll look at some of the most credible modern sightings and how technology like underwater drones and submersibles is helping us explore the unknown. But for now, here's a sea shanty to keep you company. This one's called Leviathan's Wake. Don't go anywhere.
Through the fog and the darkened tide, the bloody gull sails with the devil hides. Captain Jeb at the helm with his eye of gold, chasing a tail as the ocean grows cold. Raise your glass to the storm we brave, for the sea takes more than it ever gave. In the shadow of the beast we stake our lives to the roar of Leviathan's wake. The harpoons glint as the crew holds tight, singing songs to the stars in the endless night. A ripple turns to a thunderous wave, the beast descends from its watery grave. Raise your glass to the storm we brave, for the sea takes more than it ever gave. In the shadow of the beast we stake our lives to the roar of Leviathan's wake. Timbers crack, with teeth like daggers, there's no turning back. But Jeb, he laughs with a pirate's glee, for no one conquers the unbound sea. Raise your glass to the storm we brave, for the sea tastes more than it ever gave. In the shadow of the beast we stake our lives to the roar of Leviathan's wake. Raise your glass to the storm we brave, for the sea takes more than it ever gave. In the shadow of the beast we stake our lives to the roar of Leviathan's wake. As the dawn breaks red on the shattered hull, Captain Jeb sings death takes us all. But the legend lives on in the tides and the quake of the bloody gull boys and Leviathan's wake.
Ahoy again, my salty sailors and seekers of the strange. It's time for our Seas of Mystery letters. And tonight, we're going to do something a little different. I'll be reading your letters, but instead of just narrating them, let's imagine you're right here with me, sitting in the captain's quarters, sipping on a strong brew, and hashing out these tales of the deep together. Let's get into it, shall we? First up, we've got Jack from Maine. Now Jack writes to us about something that'll make your spine tingle. Let's dive in. Dear Captain Jeb, I was part of a scientific expedition near the Mariana Trench a few years back. Our team was using a deep-sea submersible equipped with cameras to explore the trench's depths. One night during a routine dive, the submersible's camera caught footage of a massive creature. Its tentacles were as thick as tree trunks, and its movements were slow but purposeful, almost as if it knew it was being watched. Then, without warning, the camera feed cut out. We tried to recover the submersible, but when it surfaced, the entire camera rig had been crushed. To this day, our team never released the footage. But I swear on my life, we saw the Kraken. Jack, my friend, that's one heck of a tale. So let me ask you, when that submersible came back up with the crushed camera rig, did ye and your team try to piece together what could have done it? Was there any speculation? Well, Captain, we thought about it. At first we considered if it might have been a pressure failure, or maybe the submersible collided with a rock formation. But the crushing was too deliberate, like something had grabbed it. Grim and deliberate, eh? That's the kind of thing that sticks with ye. Now, I've heard of colossal squids doing some damage, but tentacles as thick as tree trunks? That's another league entirely. What did the rest of your team think? Did anyone else believe it was the Kraken? Some of us did, Captain, but others thought it was just some freak occurrence. Still, when you're down near the Mariana Trench, you start to wonder what else might be hiding there. Oh, absolutely, Jack. The Mariana Trench is practically an underwater black hole for science. A place so deep and dark that it's no wonder ancient legends like the Kraken thrive there. Thank ye for sharing that one, Jack. I'd wager the Kraken keeps a watchful eye on anyone poking around its domain. Next up, we've got Rachel from San Diego. Rachel, you sent in a letter that reads like a Hollywood movie. Let's see what you've got. Hi, Captain Jeb. I've always been fascinated by sea monsters, but I never imagined I'd come face to face with one. Last summer, my family rented a small sailboat off the coast of Baja, California. We were out at sea late one evening watching the sunset when we noticed something moving in the water about 300 feet away. At first we thought it was a whale, but it was too long, and had this rigid serpentine back. It undulated as it moved across the water, and its size was unlike anything I'd ever seen. It stayed on the surface for about 10 seconds before diving back under. My whole family saw it, 5 of us in total. But when we told the locals, they just laughed and said we'd been drinking too much tequila. But I know what I saw, and I think it might have been a Leviathan. What do you think? Rachel, first of all, let me say cheers to ye for keeping your wits about you during what sounds like a once-in-a-lifetime sighting. And cheers to your tequila. Now tell me this, when I dived back under, did ye notice any kind of splash or disturbance in the water? No splash, Captain Jeb. It just slid under, smooth as silk, almost like it didn't want to leave a trace. Now that's curious, Rachel. Creatures like whales or even large fish tend to leave some kind of surface disturbance. What about the rest of your family? Did everyone agree on what they saw? Absolutely. My brother even tried to sketch it afterward. But Captain, the more we talked about it, the more it felt like something we weren't supposed to see. That's an eerie thought, Rachel. And let me tell ye, if I've learned one thing in my years chasing the mysteries of the deep, it's that the ocean guards its secret jealously. Thank you for sharing this one. It sounds like ye might have had a brush with the Leviathan itself. And now we've got Victor from Cape Town, South Africa. Victor, your letter has the markings of a legendary tale. Let's get into it. Dear Captain Jeb, when I was a boy, my father worked on a cargo ship that traveled between Cape Town and Singapore. He always told me stories about the strange things they'd encounter at sea, but there's one story I'll never forget. One night during a particularly rough storm, the ship's radar picked up something massive beneath the waves. At first, they thought it might be a pod of whales, but the shape was too large and moved with incredible speed. Some of the crew swore they saw glowing eyes just below the surface, but the captain ordered everyone to stay quiet about it, saying the shipping company wouldn't want to deal with the fallout of such a report. My father always believed it was a Leviathan. Do you think sea monsters might be smart enough to avoid detection, or are we just not looking in the right places? Victor, first of all, let me say, your father sounds like a wise man, and a brave one, sailing through storms like that. Now let's talk about the glowing eye. Did he ever describe its color or size? He said it was yellow, Captain, and big, almost the size of a dinner plate. He only saw it for a second, but it was enough to make him believe there was something alive down there. A yellow eye as big as a dinner plate. That's no ordinary marine life, Victor. And the fact that it moved with such speed sounds like intelligence to me. Perhaps the kind that knows how to stay out of human reach. Your father's captain wasn't wrong to keep quiet. Sometimes silence is the best way to protect the unknown. Well, me friends, those were 3 unforgettable accounts from the deep. The Kraken, the Leviathan, and the unknown beasts of the ocean. They're out there, waiting for the brave, the curious, and the foolish to stumble into their domain. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll explore the science behind these creatures. What do modern experts think about the possibility of sea monsters? Stick around for more Seas of Mystery. But first, here's a word from our sponsors.
Are you feeling adrift in a sea of stress? Try Neptune's Sleep Remedy. With ingredients from the ocean's depths, it'll help you drift off to dreamland faster than a mermaid's song.
Ahoy treasure hunters! Dive into the world of exclusive sea-themed jewelry at Skulls and Bones on Etsy. Unique designs inspired by the mysteries of the ocean. Find your treasures today.
Ahoy, my curious crew! We're back from our break and ready to dive even deeper into the mystery of sea monsters. The ocean holds more secrets than we can even begin to imagine. And tonight, you've been kind enough to send in your stories. Let's not waste another moment and jump right in to our listener call-ins. First up, we've got Dana from Charleston on the line. Welcome to Seas of Mystery, Dana. What's on your mind tonight?
Hi, Captain. Thanks for taking my call. I've got a story to share that I heard from my grandfather. He was in the Navy during World War II, stationed in the Pacific. Now, Grandpa was a no-nonsense guy, so when he said he saw something strange, you best believe I was listening. He told me that one night, while they were out at sea, the crew spotted a massive serpent-like creature that followed their ship for miles. He said it was so big that it made the ship feel small. The crew started calling it the Leviathan, and he swore it stayed with them for hours, swimming just below the surface, never going away. Do you think creatures like this could still be out there, or was it just a tale spun by tired sailors?
Dana, now that's a tale that sends a chill down your spine, eh? A massive serpent-like creature swimming just below the surface, never leaving the ship's side. Sounds like something straight out of old maritime legends. But here's the thing, Dana. The ocean is vast, vast beyond belief. Over 70% of our planet is covered by water, and a good chunk of it is unexplored. I'd say that if there's anywhere on Earth that something like a Leviathan could still be lurking, it's out there in the deep blue unknown. So you have to wonder, maybe your grandfather did see something that science hasn't quite explained yet.
That's what I was thinking, Captain. It's hard to say, but hearing your take on it makes me wonder if there's really something out there we haven't discovered yet. Thanks for the insight.
Aye, Dana, there's always room for mystery in the deep blue. Keep your eyes on the horizon. Who knows what's waiting out there? Thanks for calling in and sharing that spine tingler with us. Now let's take a call from Henry in Halifax. Henry, what's going on up in the north?
Oh, hi, Captain. Glad to be on the line. I've got a story that's a bit wild. This happened back in 1987. I was working on a research vessel off the coast of Newfoundland doing some sonar mapping of the ocean floor. We had some pretty advanced sonar equipment at the time, and one day we picked up a massive disturbance, a huge shape just under the surface. At first we thought it was a whale or some other large sea mammal, but this thing wasn't moving like any animal we'd ever seen. It was almost like it was stationary, just huge and sitting still. We tried to get closer, but as soon as we did, the sonar went haywire and the shape disappeared. Do you think it could have been something unknown, or maybe just a glitch in the equipment?
Well, Henry, that sounds mighty peculiar, doesn't it? A shape that massive and stationary. And then poof, gone. That's the kind of thing that makes you scratch your head. Now, I'll be the first to admit, sonar glitches happen. But a massive shape that doesn't act like any whale or known creature, that's a different story. Could it be something we don't have a name for yet? Something we haven't even begun to understand? Maybe it was a creature that's figured out how to stay hidden from human eyes. Who knows? But I'll tell you this. If there's any place on Earth where something could go unseen, it's down there in the deep, dark waters. That's the perfect hideout for something truly mysterious.
That's what I'm thinking too, Captain. It's hard to shake the feeling that we might have seen something ancient, something that doesn't fit into our understanding of marine life. Thanks for the perspective.
Anytime, Henry. Keep your sonar tuned, my friend. There's more out there than meets the eye. Thanks for sharing your tale. Next up, we've got Marissa from Miami on the line. Marissa, what's your story tonight?
Hi, Captain. Love the show. I've got a strange one for you. This came from my uncle who worked as a commercial fisherman off the Florida Keys. He and his crew were out late one night in the early 2000s. They started noticing something odd every time they dropped their nets. One night they pulled up a net full of what looked like large, smooth stones. But when they got a closer look, they realized they weren't stones at all. They were eyes. Big, black, round eyes. The crew freaked out so much, they cut the net and hauled ass. My uncle said they never caught anything like it again. What do you think? Could they have caught something like the Kraken or another sea monster?
Marissa, that's one of those stories that makes ye want to look twice at everything ye haul up from the sea, isn't it? Eyes. Big, black, round eyes staring up from the depths. That's not something ye forget. Now, could it have been something like the Kraken? Maybe, but we've got to remember, there are creatures down in the ocean's depths that we don't even have names for. Could your uncle and his crew have pulled up an unknown deep-sea creature, a remnant from a time when giant creatures ruled the waters? I wouldn't be surprised. The ocean hides its secrets well, and who knows what's lurking in the deep, dark places where light can't reach.
It was so freaky, Captain. I can't stop thinking about what they could have caught in that net. Thanks for your insight. I'll never look at the ocean the same way again.
I don't blame ye, Marissa. The ocean's full of surprises, and not all of them are friendly. Keep an eye on your nets, and don't forget the depths. Thanks for calling in. All right, let's keep this rolling. We've got Jim from San Francisco up next. Jim, what's your story tonight?
Hey, Captain, long-time listener, first-time caller. I've got a strange one from a few years ago. My buddies and I were out on a deep-sea fishing trip off the coast, about 60 miles out. It was a perfectly calm day, no storms, water as smooth as glass. But then, suddenly, we saw this massive shadow pass beneath the boat. At first, we thought it was a whale, but as it got closer, we realized that it was way bigger than any whale we'd ever seen. It had a long, sleek body with huge fin-like structures sticking out of its sides. We tried to follow it, but it disappeared into the depths before we could get close. Could we have seen something unknown, maybe even a sea monster?
Jim, now that's the kind of sighting that sticks with you, doesn't it? A shadow that big moving through the water and then disappearing in the blink of an eye, that's enough to make any seasoned fisherman question what they know. Now, I've heard of creatures with large, sleek bodies and fin-like structures, but this sounds like something more. Could it have been an ancient sea creature? A relic from the past like the megalodon? Or maybe it was something else. Something we haven't put on the map yet. Whatever it was, I'd say it was a reminder that the ocean still holds its mysteries, and we've only just scratched the surface of what's down there.
I can't get it out of my head, Captain. We've all been talking about it since that day. Thanks for giving me a place to share it.
That's what we're here for, Jim. Keep your eyes peeled and your boat steady. Who knows what you'll see next time. Thanks for calling in. And finally, we've got Tony from Anchorage on the line. Tony, what's your tale from up north?
Hey, Captain. I've got a strange one from a few years ago. I was out fishing near Kodiak Island in Alaska. My crew and I were hauling in halibut when we saw something massive rise up from the water. At first, we thought it was a humpback whale, but when it got closer, we realized it wasn't shaped like any whale we'd ever seen. It had scales on its back and a tail that looked more like a serpent's than a whale's. It circled our boat for a while, then disappeared into the fog. We never saw anything like it again. What do you think? Could it have been a sea monster?
No, Tony, that's a mighty strange creature you're describing there. Scales on its back and a serpent-like tail. That's not your everyday whale, that's for sure. Could it have been some kind of sea dragon or another ancient, forgotten creature? The waters around Kodiak Island are as wild as they come, and there's a lot about the Pacific that we don't understand. I wouldn't be surprised if ye seen something that's been lurking out there for centuries. Who knows what secrets the fog hides?
I can't stop thinking about it, Captain. It felt like we were in the presence of something ancient. Thanks for your take on it.
Anytime, Tony. Keep your eyes on the horizon. You never know what might rise from the depths next. Thanks for calling in. And that's all the time we have for tonight's listener call-ins. Some truly wild stories from all over the world. And I hope they've got you wondering about what might be swimming in the deep, dark waters. Remember, folks, the ocean holds its secrets tight, but we'll keep digging for answers. Stick around, because we've got more mysteries to unravel right after the break.
Was wild, the night was black. The bloody gull was fighting back. The waves rose high, the wind did wail. We knew we'd caught the devil's tail. Then out of the deep with a fearsome roar, the Leviathan came to even the score. Its eyes like fire, its breath like steam, a beast pulled straight from a sailor's dream. Sing ho, heave ho, lads, don't you fear. We'll face the beast with a hearty cheer. With ropes in hand and a ship so brave, we'll dance with death upon the waves. Tentacles lashed, its jaws did snap, but Jeb cried out, "We'll not be trapped! Hoist the sails and man the lines, we'll trick this beast with pirate minds." We turned the helm, a daring plan, through the roaring waves we made our stand. The beast was fast, but we were sly, we sailed the gull neath the midnight sky. Sing ho, heave ho, lads, don't you fear. We'll face the beast with a hearty cheer. With ropes in hand and a ship so brave, we'll dance with death upon the waves. Oh, Leviathan, hear our cry. We'll not go down, we'll never die. Your claws can tear, your teeth can bite, but pirates never lose the fight. We cut the anchor, the ship did fly. The bloody gull shot across the tide. Through the maelstrom's edge we made our way, while the Leviathan roared in its watery fray. And as dawn broke o'er the restless sea, the beast sank back to its mystery. We raised our mugs, a cheer to the sky. Another day for the gull to fly. Sing ho, heave ho, lads, don't you fear. We'll face the beast with a hearty cheer. With ropes in hand and a ship so brave, we'll dance with death upon the waves. So here's to Jeb and the crew so bold, the bloody gull with a heart of gold. We laughed at danger, we spit at dread, for pirates live where legends tread.
Ahoy, mates, looking to outfit your vessel for adventure? Or maybe you're just a landlubber with a sailor's heart. Head on down to Old Salt's Nautical Supply. We've got everything from sturdy ropes and brass compasses to weathered lanterns that'll light your way through the darkest night. And don't forget our famous sea charts, marked with spots where legends were born and mysteries still linger. Whether you're fishing, exploring, or hunting sea monsters, Old Salt has you covered. Visit us online at oldsaltnauticalsupply.com or drop anchor at our portside shop. Old Salt's, where the sea begins. Ahoy there, crew! You're in luck tonight because I've got a story that's bigger than any whale of a tale you've ever heard. A story of the time I stood face to face, or should I say, bow to maw, with the Leviathan itself. This wasn't a simple skirmish, mind ye. This was a battle for survival on the open sea. So grab a tankard of grog and settle in.
The story begins aboard the Stormbreaker, a mighty galleon captained by none other than Jeb himself. The crew had set out on a voyage to chart unclaimed waters, venturing farther than any map dared to go. The sea was calm at first, a kind of glassy calm that whispers of an approaching storm.
The old sailors called it the Silent Veil. It's said to be the boundary between the known world and the abyss. I should have turned back when the gulls disappeared from the sky, but curiosity has always been my compass.
As the Stormbreaker ventured deep, the sea began to churn, seemingly alive with an unseen force. The first sign of trouble came with the waterspout, spiraling out of nowhere, its dark column reaching into the heavens.
At first, we thought it was just a freak storm. The crew scrambled to secure the sails, and I took the helm, trying to steer us clear. That's when I saw it, the shadow moving beneath the waves, larger than the ship itself.
The shadow rose, and with it came the Leviathan, a serpent-like creature of unimaginable size. Its scaled body shimmered like molten silver under the storm's lightning. Its eyes glowed an eerie yellow, locked onto the Stormbreaker with an intelligence that sent shivers down the crew's spines.
The beast wasn't just massive, it was cunning. It circled us like a predator, playing with its prey. One moment its head would breach the surface, jaws wide enough to swallow a ship whole. The next, its tail would rise, slamming into the waves and sending walls of water crashing over our deck.
The Leviathan struck with precision, wrapping its coiled body around the Stormbreaker. The ship groaned under the pressure, wood splintering as the crew fought back with harpoons, cannons, in sheer desperation.
Slay the Kraken! Fire! All hands on deck! Reload! I'll admit it, it felt hopeless. Every harpoon that struck its hide barely left a mark. The beast was ancient, armored by centuries of survival in the deep. But then I remembered an old tale, a sailor's legend about the Leviathan's one weakness: its eyes.
Captain Jeb rallied his crew, ordering them to aim for the glowing eyes of the monster. The cannons were loaded with everything they could muster: chains, nails, even the captain's prized silver cutlery.
Desperate times, desperate measures, eh? I stood at the bow aiming the largest harpoon we had, a makeshift bomb lashed to its tip. Steady, lads, I called, waiting for the perfect moment. When the beast reared its head, I let it fly.
The harpoon struck true, piercing the Leviathan's left eye. The explosion sent a shockwave through the sea, and the monster let out a roar that echoed across the heavens. It released the Stormbreaker, thrashing wildly as it disappeared into the depths, leaving behind a frothing whirlpool.
We didn't stick around to see if it would come back. With the ship barely holding together, we sailed hard and fast, not stopping until we reached safe waters. To this day, I can still feel the weight of that moment, the power of the Leviathan, and the knowledge that we had barely escaped its wrath.
The crew of the Stormbreaker survived, but they carried the scars of that encounter for the rest of their days. As for Captain Jeb, he earned a place among the legends of the sea, a man who faced the Leviathan and lived to tell the tale.
So next time ye hear the sea whispering its secrets, remember, the Leviathan is out there, waiting in the shadows of the deep. Respect the ocean, lads. It's bigger, older, and far more dangerous than we can ever imagine.
And so the tale of the Leviathan stands as a testament to the mysteries of the ocean and the courage of those who dare to sail its vast and treacherous waters.
Now let's toast to the sea, the unknown, and the stories that keep us coming back for more. Cheers, me hearties!
Nassau shines like a jewel so fine, with rum and gold and a warm sunshine. The taverns echo with the pirates' cheer, but I'll not trade the sea for comforts here. ocean's call is wild and free. No chains can bind the heart of me. Though Nassau shores may tempt my creed, the waves are home and I'll never leave. Whispers of lives untold, of treasures hidden and spirits bold. Yet the open waters are where I belong, where the stars light the night and the wind sings a song. For the ocean's call is wild and free. No chains can bind the heart of me. Though Nassau shores may tempt my creed, the waves are home and I'll never leave. Land may offer its fleeting charms, but it cannot hold me in its arms. The horizon's edge is my guiding line, where the world fades to blue and the sun dares to shine. The ocean's call is wild and free. No chains can bind the heart of me. Though Nassau shores may tempt my creed, the waves are home and I'll never leave. So raise the sails and catch the breeze. Leave Nassau shores and earthly please. For Captain Jeb and his merry band choose to stay forever over the land.
Ahoy, my fellow seekers of the deep. As the night draws to a close, we've sailed through some wild waters today. From the mythic Kraken to the mysterious Leviathan, we've explored what might lie beneath the ocean's surface. Both the creatures of old and those that may still be out there, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. What do we really know about these sea monsters? Not nearly enough, if ye ask me. And that's the thing about the ocean. It holds its secrets close, like a ship's treasure chest, locked tight, waiting for the right key to open it. Now, before I send ye off into the night, I've got one last letter here. It's from Sophie in Nantucket. Sophie writes, Captain Jeb, I've always been fascinated by the stories of sea serpents and giant creatures that are said to haunt the waters around New England. My grandfather, who was a fisherman for most of his life, used to tell me about a creature he called the Old One, a massive serpent that would come ashore during storms. Its body so long it would wrap around entire ships. The creature would rise from the waves during the wildest of thunderstorms, almost like it was drawn to the chaos. He said he saw it once in the late hours of the night while navigating through a particularly thick fog. The waters turned still for a moment, then suddenly this enormous shape rose from the water, its head the size of a barrel, eyes glowing like lanterns in the storm. He never spoke of it again after that night. Do you think creatures like this could still be lurking in the depths, waiting for the storm to roll in? Sophie, that's a haunting story from your grandfather. The Old One. That's a name that sticks, isn't it? Now you've got to wonder, could such creatures still exist in the wild, stormy waters of New England? He mentioned that the creature would rise in the midst of a storm, almost as if it thrived on the chaos of nature. Some folks believe that many sea monsters be it serpents or dragons, are tied to certain natural phenomena. Storms, fog, the mysterious quiet that falls just before the tempest hits. Could there be something about these conditions that allows such creatures to reveal themselves? It wouldn't surprise me. The ocean isn't just a place of beauty, it's also a place of power. A power that could stir up the ancient creatures lying dormant beneath. Thank ye for sharing that story with us, Sophie. We can only hope that your grandfather's tale is more than a tale. And if it is, may we find the courage to face what the waves may bring. And before I close this chapter on sea monsters, I've got one last call to take tonight. It's Vince from Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome aboard, Vince. What's on your mind?
Hey, Captain Jeb, glad to be here. I've got a story that's been eating at me for a while now. It happened last year when I was out with my crew fishing off the coast of Florida. Everything was calm, the sun setting low, when we noticed this massive shadow under the water. It wasn't just a passing shape, it was huge. We tried to get a closer look, but the water was too dark. The thing moved with such power that we could feel the boat rocking with each pass. It came so close, we could almost hear it. But then it disappeared as quick as it had come. The weird part? The sea was still calm, no waves, no currents. Do you think it could have been one of those ancient creatures? Maybe even a sea dragon or something else completely unknown?
Vince, my friend, that's a chilling encounter you've had there. A massive shadow that rocks the boat, yet the water stays calm. Now that's a mystery in itself. A sea dragon? Or something older? Something larger? I can't say for sure, but what I can say is this. The ocean is a place where the rules we think we know don't always apply. I've heard stories about things lurking beneath the surface that aren't just big in size, but big in presence. Creatures that have been here longer than we have, and perhaps they're just waiting, watching from the depths. What you felt, Vince, wasn't just a shadow. It was the weight of something ancient moving through waters that most people never think to explore. I wouldn't rule out a sea dragon, but it could have been something else. Keep your eyes peeled, Vince. You're not the first one to feel the brush of something extraordinary in the sea, and ye won't be the last.
You're right, Captain. That night has haunted me ever since. Thanks for giving me a chance to share it. You've given me a lot to think about.
Anytime, Vince. Keep that curiosity alive, me friend. The sea never forgets its secrets. Well, me friends, there ye have it. We've sailed through storms of myth and mystery tonight, hearing from listeners who've encountered the unknown and felt the shadow of something bigger than themselves. The Kraken, the Leviathan, sea serpents and dragons, whether they are ancient nightmares or simply misunderstood creatures from the depths, one thing is for sure. They remind us of the ocean's power, its mysteries, and its infinite possibility. Before I sign off, I want to give ye a sneak peek of what's coming up in our next episode of Seas of Mystery. Episode 5 will be all about the Merfolk Chronicles. We'll be diving deep into the myths of sirens, sea sprites, and the legends of the most enchanting and deadly creatures. Do ye believe in mermaids? Could the siren's song still lure sailors into the depths today? We'll be answering these questions and more, so make sure to tune in next time. It's a journey ye won't want to miss. But for now, my friends, it's time to pull anchor. I'll leave ye with one final thought. The ocean is a realm of wonders and terrors alike. A place where the most unimaginable creatures could be lurking just beneath the surface. Keep your eyes on the horizon, stay curious, and never stop searching for the unknown. This is Captain Jeb signing off from Seas of Mystery. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and may the winds guide you to your next adventure. Good night, me friends. May your sails always find the wind.